Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you might be dialing in from around the world. Thank you all for joining us for today's webinar, Global Cybersecurity Buying Habits of Micro, Small, and Mid-Size Enterprises, presented by IT Navarca Group. I'm Michaela Bernier, and I'll be your host for today's webinar. We'll be starting the webinar shortly, but first, let me just cover a few quick housekeeping items. Today's webinar will be recorded, and a link to view the recording on demand will be available after the session. Please feel free to submit your questions using the questions feature located in the GoToWebinar toolbar to the right of your screen, and we will address them at the end of the webinar. It's now my pleasure to introduce today's speaker. Tari Schreider is a strategic advisor at IT Navarca Group, specializing in cybersecurity, privacy and IT risk, information assurance, security program architecture, and maturity improvement. He brings more than 40 years of security, privacy, and recovery management to IT Navarca Group. Tari is an author of top-rated cybersecurity architecture and law books and is a master instructor of Chief Information Security Officer certification courses. He's a co-author of a U.S. patent titled Method for Analyzing Risk. He has designed security operations centers, was responsible for creating the first information sharing and analysis center in collaboration with the Information Technology Association of America, and has created complex cybersecurity programs in many industries and international locations. Tari is also a member of the Writers Board for CISO Mag. So without further ado, I'll now turn the mic over to Tari. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed today's webinar.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, because I was looking at the registration list and I can see a number of you are from literally all four corners of the world. Unfortunately, my camera is not working this morning. That could either be a good or a bad thing, depending upon whether you've watched me on online before or not. But in any event, I've got a tremendous amount of content for you today. And I'm really excited to bring this topic to you and talk about what's going on in the small, medium enterprise space. I'm going to talk about the methodology and the scope that we use to gather this information, share with you right up front some of the key findings, talk a bit about the micro, small, and medium enterprise market, talk about their current state, and then I know an area that many of you have sent me notes that you're really looking forward to is digging in a little deeper into purchasing habits, and then I'll share with you, some final thoughts. And then certainly at the end, we'll have an opportunity to answer any questions that you might have. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into the methodology and the scope, because I think it's important that you understand how we arrived at where we did today. So micro, small, and mid-sized enterprises, or MSME, they've historically relied on only essential cyber protection, such antivirus and so forth. They've kind of shied away from the more advanced products that addressed sophisticated cyber threats, but that's starting to change. And the reasons are pretty obvious. They've got limited resources, small budgets, lack of threat acceptance. That's all contributed to the state of where they're at right now. But is that just sort of anecdotal information, or is that real? So MasterCard sponsored IT Navarca Group to research how MSMEs really felt about cybersecurity, what was in their investment coffers and what kept them up at night. And there's a lot of interesting findings that we find from this. So we put together, working with MasterCard, a set of 15 probing questions. And these were not surveys that were sent. These were actual interviews that were done in native language. And this occurred from October, December of last year. And there was over 1,560 organizations that we interviewed. Now, we also did a compare and contrast, and we reached out directly to 26 cybersecurity vendors, senior marketing personnel, or chief marketing officers, product managers, and so forth, to sort of see how that compared to what we were finding, and were we really getting sort of ground truth. Now, to give you an idea of what this looks like, we strive to have 65 organizations in the specific countries. There were 24 countries that were selected across 7 regions. Now, company size designation that was employed for this survey fairly well aligned to the SME's finance forms designation of company size and the characteristics of a micro, small, and medium enterprise.